There are 36 sniper rifles in Borderlands 3 with all the DLCs. But which ones are worth using and which ones aren't even worth the money they sell for? Hey Volt Hunters, I'm Constant Canadian and this is my definitive sniper rifle tier list. If you enjoy this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe as it really helps out the channel, and if you really enjoy it, consider joining the membership program. 99 cents a month gets you a shout out at the end of my videos, as well as these cute emotes and awesome sub badges, and for $4.99 a month you get all that plus early access to most of my videos. Starting off with the ASMD. The ASMD is manufactured by Malawan and has two firing modes, Energy Bolt and Energy Orb. In Energy Bolt mode, the ASMD fires an Energy Bolt, surprising, I know, that deals shock splash damage. In Energy Orb mode, the ASMD fires a slow-moving Energy Orb that explodes on impact, dealing shock splash damage. Both Energy Bolt and Energy Orb are capable of hitting critical hits, which is good. But if you fire your Energy Orb, switch over to Energy Bolt and shoot the orb with the bolt before the orb has hit its target, the orb will explode, dealing 640% extra damage with an increased splash damage radius. Or at least Loot Lemon says it's supposed to be 640. In my testing, the actual difference is more like a 300 to 400% damage increase. But regardless, even with a slight increase to critical hit damage, it was far more effective for me to aim for critical hits with the Energy Bolt than it is to set up orb explosions. This sniper rifle really doesn't have a lot of damage at all. However, thanks to it being a splash gun, it can actually be a decent choice for Moes, which leaves the ASMD in a solid B tier spot. The auto aim is a decent theory that just kinda sucks in practice. Like the name would suggest, this sniper rifle, manufactured by Dahl, fires bullets that slightly home in on enemies. The biggest problem for this sniper rifle is actually just that. When the auto aims, it aims for center mass, meaning that if your enemy is vaguely human shaped, as they often are, with a crit spot on top, you cannot land critical hits with a sniper rifle unless you are at point blank range. This sniper rifle also just has very underwhelming damage despite having 3 different buffs. At least it's available in the main 3 elements as well as non-elemental, but the whole point of sniper rifles in most cases is to aim for the crits and get good damage. It would be one thing if the auto aim were an Atlas weapon and the auto aim could be turned off somehow, but no, it's always on. Due to its low damage, inability to crit humanoid enemies without being inside of them, and being unable to roll with cryo or radiation, I have no choice but to put it in the B tier, kept only from C tier by the fact that it has full auto firing. The binary operator is a very weird sniper rifle. Being one of the few Malawan weapons without an element is already weird enough, but even weirder is the fact that this weapon has a listed damage of 2. Now, I'm no mathematician, but I'm pretty sure 2 is not a big number. The way the binary operator works is each level of this gun has a different hidden damage value. If the enemy you shoot has less health currently than that damage value, it will die instantly. Otherwise, the enemy only takes 2 damage. This effect isn't inherently bad, but the hidden damage value is at most 1.04 million. If you don't know, the lowest health enemy in this game is the Augmented Reality Death Sphere from the Mission Transaction Pact, and these enemies have 1.06 million health. This means that this weapon won't even damage the weakest enemy in the game unless it's been damaged prior. The binary operator is an absolutely useless sniper rifle. It's going in the F tier for sure. The Bird of Prey is a very underrated weapon. This sniper rifle, manufactured by Jacobs, has very high base damage, and upon hitting an enemy has a 33% chance to spawn an additional projectile that deals 600% weapon damage. This additional projectile comes from the sky, by the way. So for humanoid enemies with a crit spot on the top, it'll land a critical hit pretty frequently. The Bird of Prey is just a good all-around sniper rifle with very high damage, and it is very good for mobbing if you've built for it properly. The Bird of Prey is locked to non-elemental, which hurts this weapon a fair bit, but it still belongs in at least the B tier. The Boogeyman is one of the few sniper rifles in this game that I really haven't had too much experience with, and honestly, I'm pretty upset that I waited this long to try it out. This sniper rifle, available in all elements, is manufactured by Vladov. It's fully automatic, has insanely good accuracy, decent damage for how fast it fires, has a 60% chance not to consume ammo when firing, as well as having a small chance to spawn a Boogeyman on kill. This boogeyman is a large, slow-moving pink skull that will home in on nearby enemies and deal non-elemental grenade damage. So skills like Moses Pull the Holy Pin or Fire in the Skagdan work exceptionally for dealing extra damage with this skull. If there is another nearby enemy, then the boogeyman skull will continue to spawn and seek out enemies, though in my experience the tracking can be a bit weird. And to top it all off, you don't even need to kill an enemy with the boogeyman to get the skull to spawn. You just need to be holding the gun when an enemy dies. So holding this gun when an Iron Bear can still spawn a bunch of skulls. The actual bullets of the boogeyman also deal splash damage, so this sniper rifle is insanely good on Moes, though it still performs great on all characters. Certainly an A tier sniper rifle. Up next is our first unique sniper rifle, the Brashy's Dedication. This sniper rifle, manufactured by Dahl, is just all around pretty bad. The Brashy's Dedication shoots 3 bullets at the price of 1, with 1 flying straight and the other 2 circling around it as it travels. The damage per shot of this gun is decent at least, but that's assuming you'll land all 3 projectiles on the enemy, which thanks to this weapon's dumb bullet trajectory is unlikely. With this weapon, chances are you're only going to be landing 1 bullet on an enemy unless they're massive. Even still, the Brashy's Dedication is locked to being shock and corrosive, which are arguably the 2 worst elements in the game, and you're better off using almost any other sniper rifle. The Brashy's Dedication is going in the F tier. The Cocky Bastard is a Jacobs sniper rifle that, at the time of its release, was greatly overshadowed by the unseen threat from the same DLC. However, the Cocky Bastard is actually a surprisingly competent sniper rifle to this day. This sniper, upon scoring a critical hit, does 150% bonus shock damage to the target and ricochets 1 bullet at a nearby enemy. Aside from that, it's a pretty standard Jacobs sniper rifle. This gun's damage isn't the greatest all around, and it is a Jacobs, so it's going to be non-elemental aside from its shock crit damage, but it does pretty good damage to enemies across the board. It's going in the B tier. The Cold Shoulder is another unique sniper rifle. It is a little bit better than our last unique, though it still sucks. The Cold Shoulder is always locked to the cryo element, is always fully automatic, and is locked to always have the same parts. The problem with this sniper rifle is that it just uses so much ammo for very little damage output. Consuming 2 ammo per shot and only dealing around 1800 damage per bullet, this gun certainly is not very strong. Even when you get this weapon in a normal playthrough, it's usually already being outclassed by the time you get it. It also doesn't help that the Cold Shoulder can never be anointed. It's going in the F tier. Ah yes, the Complex Root, one of the best sniper rifles of all time in this franchise. The Complex Root is manufactured by Maliwan with pretty subpar damage. Don't let that fool you though, this weapon is an absolute killing machine. It's pretty difficult to explain what the Complex Root actually does, but basically it'll spawn bonus projectiles alongside its initial shot that fly off in a crazy zigzag pattern, and then upon impacting an enemy, will basically create an entire wall of these same projectiles. These projectiles deal splash damage though, so even with their weird trajectory, they don't have that hard of a time hitting their targets. This sniper rifle does some insane work in the hands of Amara, as her skill Indiscriminate will ricochet the bonus projectiles, which will then spawn their own bonus projectiles, which will in turn spawn more bonus projectiles. The Complex Root works really well on Zane and Flak as well, but on Moes it has a tendency to kill her more often than anything else, thanks to points in Torg cross promotion. Regardless, this gun's damage output is insane, and it definitely earns itself our first S tier spot. The Firestorm is a Maliwan sniper locked to the fire element that upon shooting an enemy will spawn 3 fire orbs that float into the air for around 2 seconds then crash down, dealing splash fire damage. The splash radius on these orbs are pretty large, and the initial projectile also deals splash damage as well, making this a pretty good choice for a splash damage build. The Firestorm is a very good middle of the road sniper with pretty high damage, and the fire element is one of the better ones, so being locked to it isn't too bad. However, it isn't great that it basically won't work properly indoors, as the fire orbs will just float up into the ceiling and explode early. The Firestorm works exceptionally well on larger enemies, provided they don't move around too much, as well as in heavy mobbing situations. Of course, it is a Maliwan, so you do still have to charge it up, which ruins a lot of guns for some people. Though my biggest problem with it is the delayed damage from the secondary projectiles. Still though, the Firestorm earns itself a C tier spot. The Headsplosion is a pretty basic weapon, all things considered, but it still does some pretty awesome work, especially for mobbing. This weapon has very high damage thanks to a 100% damage buff back in August of 2020, and when scoring a critical hit, will ricochet 3 bullets to nearby enemies. This gun is unfortunately locked to non-elemental, being a Jacobs and all, but it also deals splash damage on every single bullet, which is what makes this gun unique. The Headsplosion is held back quite a bit by being non-elemental, as well as its very slow fire rate due to being a bolt action, but with even a half decent crit or splash build, the Headsplosion can do some serious work. Definitely an A tier weapon. The Ionic Disruptor is another sniper rifle that was in my best sniper rifles video, so we already know it's going to be pretty good. This sniper rifle, manufactured by Jacobs, has a special melee attack that debuffs any enemy hit with it, making them take 100% extra damage for about 10 seconds. It's also got the 4th highest single shot damage out of all of the snipers in Borderlands 3, all packed into one single projectile. Now, what I actually didn't even think about in my other video is that the Ionic Disruptor deals direct health damage. This is great against fleshy targets with a big shield, and it also bypasses immunity phases as well. However, it just straight up does nothing if the enemy doesn't have a health bar. That means that for robots and guardians, the Ionic Disruptor is completely useless. Luckily, most of the enemies in this game are fleshy, but there are still quite a few areas with only guardians and robots. So I'm gonna have to put the Ionic Disruptor in the A tier. The Kenulux has the bones of an actually decent sniper rifle. However, there are a few choices made with this gun that absolutely destroy it. The Kenulux is a blue doll sniper rifle that is locked to the shock element. That is the first thing holding it back, as shock is one of the least versatile elements in the game. The Kenulux shoots 2 bullets that diverge as they travel, and while that does sound pretty bad for a sniper rifle, they diverge super slowly, so landing both bullets, which by the way only cost 1 ammo to shoot, on a target is pretty easy. What I think really puts the final nail in this coffin though is the fact that the Kenulux is unanointable. This sniper rifle genuinely surprised me when I used it to make this list. Its damage is decent and its fire rate is as well. Don't get me wrong, it's not tearing Hemovorus a new one or anything, but it has decent damage. If the Kenulux could be anointed, it actually could be a pretty strong weapon, but it can't, which leaves it in the C tier. The Krakatoa at one point was an absolute joke of a sniper rifle, being locked to fire, requiring a charge up time, and having laughably low damage. That was until March of 2020, where this gun got a massive weapon damage buff, which very quickly skyrocketed it to a top tier sniper rifle. The Krakatoa's damage is very high, and it's fully automatic with a decent fire rate. This sniper rifle on kill will also spawn a volcano that shoots fire orbs out from it, that deal splash damage and spawn a fire puddle where they drop. These secondary projectiles from the volcano are insanely strong as well, though they do deal self damage as well, so it will kill the player a lot too. Overall though, the Krakatoa is very strong and earns itself an A tier spot. The Lyuda was one of the best sniper rifles in Borderlands 2, and in Borderlands 3 it's strong as well. The Lyuda is a fully automatic Vladov sniper rifle that is available in all elements. The main projectile of the Lyuda splits into 3 as it travels, and to do the absolute most with this weapon, you need to hit the enemy just after the projectile splits to get all 3 to land on target. The Lyuda has a huge learning curve to it, but once you've gotten the hang of it, which I haven't just yet, it can become incredibly powerful. For that reason, it's going in the A tier. The Malix Bane is somewhat of a meme in the community for being completely worthless, and quite frankly, I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as people say it is. Don't get me wrong, it's bad, but it's not completely useless. The Malix Bane is a legendary E-Tech doll sniper that has 2 firing modes, semi-auto and shotgun. In semi-auto it shoots 1 beam that bounces off of surfaces and penetrates enemies, and in shotgun mode it fires 6 energy orbs. Pretty straightforward. The Malix Bane's item card says it does around 60,000 damage, but its theoretical damage output just kind of sucks due to its low fire rate. The biggest problem with this sniper rifle though is its ammo consumption. For whatever reason, Gearbox decided that this sniper should consume 2 ammo per shot, which means that 90% of the time, you'll be out of ammo by the time you've cleared half of the current wave of mobs. Thankfully, ammo is super available through the cut purse artifact, but still, Malix Bane is going in the C tier. The Masterwork Crossbow is a very underrated sniper rifle manufactured by Hyperion. This sniper has the 3rd highest single shot damage of any sniper in the game, and the highest single bullet damage of any sniper. Now, this weapon does come with quite a few caveats. Firstly, it only has a magazine size of 1. meaning you have to reload after each shot. However, the reload time is quick enough that it doesn't hurt this too bad. The next major downside of this weapon is that it has an arcing trajectory, similar to the hail, so aiming it is a little rough. However, on Amara you can use phase grasp and flak has fade away, so on certain characters it's pretty powerful. The Masterwork crossbow, just like the Lyuda, has the potential to be very good, but has a huge learning curve to it, so it's going in the A tier. The Monocle is a sniper rifle focused purely on getting critical hits. This sniper rifle has below average gun damage in exchange for a very high critical hit multiplier, 250%. This weapon is absolutely god tier early on and can carry you pretty far through the story if you have decent accuracy. The problem with it is the same as the problem with the Headsplosion. The Monocle is locked to non-elemental and is bolt action, so its fire rate is abysmal. Overall, the Monocle is solid, but the enemies just have too much health at Mayhem 10 or 11 to use it against anything but the most basic mobs. It's going in the C tier. The NARP, similar to the Cocky Bastard, was completely outshined as a sniper when it came out by the complex route. Surprisingly though, the NARP is pretty strong. The NARP is a Hyperion sniper that is available in all elements. If we look at the base stats of this weapon, it seems pretty bad. It's got bad damage, bad fire rate, just all around pretty weak. However, this weapon's special effect completely changes that. Upon reloading the NARP, the next magazine gets a buff depending on the remaining bullets in the last magazine. This buff gives around 20% gun damage and 15 to 20% fire rate per bullet left in the magazine up to 10 bullets. That means that if you reload with 10 bullets left in the magazine, your fire rate will increase by around 150 and your gun damage by 200%. This massively increases its damage per second by around 7 times, leaving the NARP in a very strong place. Definitely a B tier sniper at the very least. The Null Pointer is a unique sniper rifle given to you by Zero pretty early on in the game. This sniper is essentially a NARP with slightly better stats, but without the special effect. It's got low damage, pretty low fire rate, and just all around isn't very strong. Plus it can't roll with an element or an anointment, which hurts it a lot. It's going in the F tier. The Sandhawk gets a lot of flack for its nerf back in June of 2020. However, that nerf barely touched the power of this weapon. The Sandhawk, just like its SMG counterpart in Borderlands 2, fires bullets in a bird-shaped pattern. Unlike its Borderlands 2 counterpart, however, the Sandhawk in Borderlands 3 is a sniper rifle that consumes 3 ammo per shot, and although that sounds bad, its damage more than makes up for it. The Sandhawk in Borderlands 3 has the highest single shot damage of any sniper rifle in the game, provided all its pellets land, which is much easier to do in semi-auto mode as it makes the spread way tighter. The Sandhawk also deals splash damage, which makes it even better. Definitely an S tier sniper rifle. The Septimator and Septimator Prime are technically different weapons, but they've got almost the exact same effect, so we're bundling them together for the sake of time. The Septimator Prime, upon hitting an enemy, has a chance to spawn a meteor in the sky for each enemy nearby that will then try to hit those enemies. It can roll with either a shotgun or RPG underbarrel. The shotgun underbarrel is just a shotgun with the same effect as the main gun, and the RPG is a rocket launcher that will always spawn meteors. This weapon is just overall underwhelming. It's got a fast fire rate, but that's pretty much it. Its damage is alright, but it's locked to fire, which really hurts it. The only character I could really see this working on is Moze, simply because of short fuse. The Septimator is essentially just a worse Lyuda that sometimes spawn meteors, which aren't even that strong. It's going in the C tier. The Skullmasher has been in every game since the original Borderlands, but in Borderlands 3 it might be at its strongest. The Skullmasher in Borderlands 3 has the second highest single shot damage of all of the sniper rifles in the game. This gun is a Jacob sniper that fires 5 pellets at once in a pretty tight spread. What makes this weapon great is that it's a Jacobs that isn't bolt action, so it can be spam fired super quickly. Combine that with the incredibly high base damage and you get a very formidable sniper rifle. It's going in the S tier. The Selecki Protocol is yet another unique sniper rifle that isn't great, but it's also not horrible. The thing with the Selecki Protocol is that it has the potential to do decent damage, but to actually achieve that damage is just insanely hard. This sniper shoots shock beams that penetrate targets as well as bounce off of surfaces and then split into 5 projectiles after bouncing. The split projectiles deal splash damage. This weapon has 2 firing modes, which changes the orientation that the projectiles bounce in. Now theoretically, if you could manage to bounce projectiles off of the ground and land all 5 of them on a single target, the damage could be pretty good. But in practice, using this strategy barely does any damage and is incredibly difficult. The Selecki protocol is also locked to the shock element, which hurts, but it can roll with any anoint, so that's good. If the charge up time of this weapon were removed, or the damage was increased, this thing could genuinely be a C or even B tier weapon. But as it stands right now, it's going in the D tier. The Storm is almost the exact same as the Firestorm, with a few minor differences. With the Storm, once the shot lands, 4 shock orbs float up into the sky, and rather than falling and dealing damage, they just sit there and deal continuous shock damage. The initial shot deals splash damage just like the Firestorm, but the continuous shock damage does not. Shock damage is less versatile all around than fire, but the Storm has about 55% more damage than the Firestorm, so I'm also gonna put it in the B tier. The 2-time just kinda sucks. This sniper rifle, manufactured by Hyperion, shoots bullets that after a certain distance will spawn another projectile. This sniper rifle has nothing going for it. It's locked to shock, has fixed parts which includes no scope, and it can't be anointed. And that's not even to mention the incredibly horrible stats on this weapon, which aside from fire rate are all god awful. It's going in the F tier. Up next is the Stalker. This weapon was first introduced way back in Halloween of 2019. The Stalker is locked to cryo element and will always spawn with a 3-round burst firing mode. When holding the Stalker with Stacks of Terror, it will fire additional projectiles per shot at no additional cost, up to a limit of 2. The direction of these projectiles can be changed by switching the firing modes of the gun from vertical or horizontal. The Stalker has decent stats, but it's held back quite a bit by its ammo consumption, consuming 2 ammo per shot. This sniper is pretty good in terms of damage, if you're not running a terror build. If you are running a full-on terror build though, this gun really starts to shine, as the ammo consumption will be a non-issue and you'll get even more damage from the extra projectiles. While the Stalker isn't the best sniper out there, it can still certainly get the job done. It's going in the B tier. The Tankman's Shield is probably one of the least talked about legendary snipers in this entire game. This Hyperion sniper can come in all elements and has a fairly interesting special effect. Similar to the NARP, the Tankman's Shield will buff the next magazine by 40% per kill with the weapon, up to a maximum of 250% weapon damage, which requires around 7 kills. Once you've gotten your stacks up pretty high, this weapon can do some serious work. Now, unfortunately, unlike the Boogeyman, the kills do actually have to be with the Tankman's Shield, so it doesn't synergize too well with Ties That Bind or even Amara in general, since Remnant steals kills like nuts, and Dread will reload the weapon prematurely. However, with pretty much any other character, this gun can be super fun to play around with. The biggest problem holding this gun back is that just like with the Anarchy shotgun, the stacks will disappear the moment you swap away from the gun, meaning that if you want the most damage out of this thing, you have to fully commit to using it. It's going in the C tier. The Hunted, Hunter, and Huntress, while technically being 3 separate guns, are almost identical with very slight differences. All 3 of these snipers are unique Jacob sniper rifles that have fixed parts and can spawn with an anointment. These snipers all have no scopes and deal 75% damage to different types of enemies. The Hunted against robots, the Hunter against creatures, and the Huntress against humanoid enemies. These weapons just don't do enough damage per shot and are in fact bolt action with a fire rate of about 0.8, which makes them very weak. A non-unique purple Jacobs would do more damage than all 3 of these guns combined, even being used against their strength. The Hunt Trio is a classic example of Gearbox not knowing how to properly make a slow fire rate weapon worthwhile. The Hunter and Hunted go into the F tier, and the Huntress will go in the D tier, since humanoids are far more common in this game than robots and creatures. The Ice Queen, yet another bolt-action Jacob sniper rifle that just doesn't do enough damage. On the bright side, this one can come in cryo and only cryo, so at least it's decent against armor, and it also deals splash damage, so Moze could definitely do some work with it with fire in the Skag Den. There's really not much to say here that hasn't already been said in this video. Low damage, bad fire rate, it's going in the D tier. The Unseen Threat, when it first came out, was at the top of its class thanks to the projectile duplication glitch that still worked at the time. However, since that glitch got patched, this sniper rifle just hasn't been the same ever since. Critical hits with the Unseen Threat will spawn 3 additional projectiles that home in on enemies. This weapon is held back, yet again, by being a bolt-action Jacob sniper rifle without an element. However, unlike the last 4 snipers, this one actually has some pretty decent damage to back up its 1.33 fire rate. And the additional projectiles of this gun actually do some pretty substantial damage as well, so it's going in the A tier. The Wedding Invitation is a weapon that is locked to the Broken Hearts Valentine's Day event. Last time I used this weapon, the projectile duplication glitch still worked and level cap was 57, so I fully expected this thing to be a piece of trash. But it genuinely surprised me. The Wedding Invitation on critical hit will return 1 bullet to your magazine, create a fire explosion, and ricochet a cryo projectile towards the nearest enemy. I know, pretty busy gun, right? Well, it's actually even busier, because the fire explosion on top of dealing fire splash damage makes affected enemies take 50% more fire damage and 25% more cryo damage for 5 seconds. And the cryo projectile on top of dealing splash damage makes affected enemies take 25% more fire damage and 40% more cryo damage for 5 seconds. Both of these effects can stack up to 4 times for some pretty insane debuffs. So the Wedding Invitation will make your enemies weaker the more you damage them, which is pretty cool. Now, the Wedding Invitation is blocked to fire and cryo, and it is bolt action with only a 1.39 fire rate, but still to this day, it's a great all-around sniper. Especially for Moes, it's going in the A tier. The Woodblocker is another sniper rifle that's been memed to death for being absolute dog crap. However, unlike the Malik's Bane, I can't even really defend this one. It's a 4-shot burst sniper, which sucks, and its damage is absolutely pitiful, dealing at most 26,000 damage or so per shot. The only thing that makes this weapon unique is the fact that it's burst fire, which is a bad thing to have on a sniper rifle. The Woodblocker would need a huge increase to its damage to be anywhere near worthwhile to use. It's going in the F tier. So that's the definitive sniper rifle tier list. Do you agree or disagree with any of my picks here? Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching, have a fantastic day.